Today's topic is, as you see, man is a transitional being. Is a statement uh, made by Sri Aurobindo, which is very, very relevant uh, so far as man is concerned. And if we try to keenly observe, then we'll see, we can find out why he says so. First, man is a unique being. Though he lives on earth, he is not of the earth alone. He has he has universal dimensions to his existence, and he functions simultaneously on different levels of the being. And he is also the natural link between the material world and the highest manifestations of the spirit. So, naturally, he is one who can link matter to the supreme divinity. And also, he is never a static being. He is continuously on the move, always on the ascending curve of evolution as it is, and thus develops higher and higher nature, types of higher nature, till he reaches the acme, the optimum development possible for human species. So, man actually is one who is all the time being invaded by all the realms, all the planes of consciousness, of which we hardly know about. Only when someone comes to Sri Aurobindo and the mother, then only we know a little bit of it. Like there are different planes of consciousness which we have already discussed, we have been discussing, that the superconscient planes of consciousness, starting from higher mind through different planes of consciousness right up to the supermind and Satchidananda. And likewise, down below, there are subconscient and inconscient also. So all the time, man is invaded, or kind of exchange is taking place all the time between man and all these planes of consciousness through impulsions, through influences, overt and covert. So we know only of the physical plane as it is, but we normally do not know about the others. Now, first we'll try to see how he moves on right from the physical level. So thus he starts as a physical man. When he starts as a physical man, what is he? All his interests and energies are centered or devoted to his physical needs only, fulfillment of all those physical needs which he encounters in everyday life. And thus his life become a physical one initially. He pursues all those needs, tries to fulfill them physically. Then what happens? In that sense, he is a physical man. Now, next, what happens? The vital instincts comes up or develops into him slowly after the physical. and he goes on to fulfill those also. Vital desires, then all everything, aggrandizement of his vital cravings, all these comes, and he keeps on going to fulfill these. And in that, what is he? He is a vital man. And likewise, at the next level, slowly he crosses over to mental. That means the mental faculties develop slowly in him. Then his thoughts, his ideas take the upper hand over the vital or the physical man. Now we see the transition slowly and slowly from the physical to the vital to the mental. In the third level, he is a mental man. He is toying with new ideas, new thoughts, how to implement all these in his life and the surroundings also. So, in that sense, he is slowly coming out of the pulls and pushes of the vital, which was very strong earlier. Although it will be there still, but now he knows that he will have to go by some accepted standards, personal standards, as well as societal standards. He'll have to see those also. And he, so to say, adjusts himself with some ethical standards. Then he becomes an ethical man. But when doing so, he also develops simultaneously some other traits, like he becomes an individual self. He stands apart from others, thinking that he is an individual, totally separate from others. He develops all these. And when that happens, then he has a tendency to, like, he seems not to care too much about, at times of course, about what others say or what others think, what he is going to do. And he keeps on doing whatever he thinks right. And that ensues differences, arguments, problems. Then only he realizes that he has shortcomings, he has limitations of himself. He cannot, I mean, keep on thinking and accordingly do what he likes only. And he tries to delve a deeper, little bit deeper into the deeper recesses of his being, slowly and slowly, rather than depending totally on the mind or the intelligence, whatever we may say. So slowly he tries. First, it's a very vague awakening of which he seems not to be aware, but slowly and slowly, what he does, he gets a little bit of it intermittently. Here a gesture, there a feeling, what is to be done. So all these are coming from the spiritual realms. And in doing so, he becomes a spiritual man. But even before that, there are other trains also, of which I have not spoken, like one becomes moral, that again in the mental periphery only. He believes in morality, so that is in the mental thing only. So beyond that, again he goes to like you know, the first awakening of the spirit, that is the religious tendencies. He awakes to religious beliefs, which is not totally fulfilling, because it is only the coating, religion is only the coating of the spirituality. So it cannot sustain uh, what we truly need. It cannot give what we truly need, and it is some kind of a half-hearted measure through which only one pushes through or goes through to reach the next level, that is spirituality. And even in spirituality, as we all know, there are so many avenues open for a man, because divine's will is such that there are different openings for different man, different people, depending on the inner progression of the spirit. Each one has a unique stage of evolution in which he or she has reached. So, divine never imposes something before time. So, according to each one stage of development, one tends to go forward, engages himself in different ways of spirituality, goes through it, finally to culminate in a convergence, of which we always talk about, because it is finally the integral path which only can give solutions to our problems, because we are formed of so many different personalities, because as we discussed in the starting of the session itself, that we are always invaded by different planes of consciousness, and these influences always comes to us and keeps on working through us, and our responses are different. So until and unless all these elements coming from outside are not in harmony within us, if they are not homogeneous, if they're heterogeneous, then we will always be in confusion. Our thoughts, our interests will always be at loggerheads. Even within us, we will each one each one element will fight with the other. So that way we cannot reach anywhere. So until and unless we follow an integral path which has been so beautifully designed by the divine himself through um, those entities, for us it is always, as we know, Sri Aurobindo and the mother. So these path lays everything in such a way that all our uh, elements in us which are at loggerheads, which fights with each other, are not in harmony, will have to abide by one single will. That is the will of the divine. So, what happens through this integral path, which has been designed in such a way that we go through a discipline which entails all these, whatever is not in harmony, whatever is in contrast in our being, all these are brought together through one single will. And what is that element which will rule over all these? That is the psychic being. That is the core of our being, which is behind the solar plexus of our being. So, what we now see, that a man, as it is, goes through all these different stages. First, he is a physical man, then he is a vital man, then he graduates himself to mental man, then through others, finally to spiritual, and finally, even through going through the spiritual realms, finally he reaches, or he is on the threshold of what? The supramental consciousness, which is the next best thing to happen, which is going to happen on earth. And because we haven't come across these terms earlier, we do not know about it, or at base people generally don't know about it, we cannot take it for granted. But that is the truth which finally will prevail, because it is, as it is, one day it is destined to come through the natural way, that is through nature's yoga. But as Sri Aurobindo has repeatedly been telling us, that nature's yoga, which is done in a very slow pace. Now, at one point of time, the possibility has emerged in the evolution of earth consciousness, in which this possibility has been put forward or given to us, to human being, by the divine, to choose. Of course, it is not imposed, but it is given as a possibility. Now, whoever takes it up, and although it is very arduous, time consuming, it still has finally the possibility of culminating in that integrality of our being, which only can guarantee us, a human being, a permanent peace, a permanent happiness, a permanent ananda. And from perfection to perfection, we have a chance to go. Otherwise, it is all vague. We are circling around our mental groove, and till now we have not been able to come out of it. And neither will we, because it is designed in such a way in the cosmic um, existence itself. That is why the overmind godheads are still our ruler. Human beings' ruler is overmental godheads. Now, at this juncture, the possibility has arisen, thanks to Sri Aurobindo and the Mother herself, who took all the pains which cannot be conceived, as we have already said in our different sessions already, that they have taken, uh, embodying themselves on earth, they have taken the utmost pain a human being can go through. Now, it seems that it has become much more easier and convenient for us to tread the path, because they have already laid the milepost through which we can go, taking the cue. Only we'll have to follow the discipline. No matter how long it can take, the time can take, no matter how much difficult it is, but as it is, the difficulties have been halved already. Otherwise, it would have taken maybe 1,000 or 1,000 to 3,000 years for the perfection in a human being, total perfection in a human being to usher in. So that is the greatest ever job which has been done, which has been taken up and done also by our guru, or whatever one may call it, call them, Sri Aurobindo and the mother. So it is, I think, uh, always for us to go forward, relying solely on their force. One stumbling here, one stumbling there, a jolt here, those things will always be there. But finally, it is the divine will which prevails over everything. We may fall, we may cry, always, never finding a clue what to do, how to do, when to do, whom to approach. So it is always in the fitness of things to pursue in the right earnest the discipline they have chalked out for us, they have given us to go in our daily life slowly and slowly, and gradually the light will be shone for us, the path being lighted for us, and that is for sure. So, although we see outside all the calamities, all the troubles, and phenomenon that is altogether bleak and gloomy as such, both in our personal lives as well as collective, we can always count on the Divine Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And whenever, even if it is a very, very tiny thing, very trivial thing, just to tell the mother, see, ma, this is happening. I have not been able to find a solution to this problem, and I have been facing this and that. Always to tell her and see the result. Miracles, what we call, are truly not miracles actually. They are regular phenomenons only because we remain in the physical domain. We do not see things happening frequently. And the moment we open ourselves up towards the divine, and for that matter, towards the Divine Mother, calling her or invoking her to intervene in our affairs, whether it is a personal or a collective one, doesn't matter. We see that what kind of miracles she makes. So, it is only we who always keeps on complaining about things, about surroundings, about phenomenon. But if we try a little bit to persevere, to endure, to call her down into our personal lives, into whatever we are doing. It is not that only in the spiritual domains, as is understood normally, we'll have to call her. Because as it is, our life is dominated by the spirit from within. And our whole life is a spiritual journey. Not only this birth, from birth immemorial. So the more we rely on her, the more we uh, keep calling her down into our um, life, into whatever we are doing, she will be pouring her uh, force, her love, her consciousness to do something perfectly. And it is then only you will see, or we normally see, that it is done best. So that is it. Man, as it is, a transitional being. He is not what he is right now. Neither he was, I mean, when he was physical, as we see in those old movies, those barbarians. He is not anymore a barbarian. This same man has graduated himself to you and me only. We, who now talk about net, talk about a lot of things which seem to be impossible. We talk about going to other planets also. So all these things have been possible only because the divine wills it. And when the divine wills it, what is there? What is there to think about or worry about? Because it is always divine's road which has been charted for us to tread the sunlit path. And the more we rely, the more we give ourselves unreservedly, she does her act, the mother. So that is it. And in fact, in future, I think we will be discussing about our being, what we are formed of. As we discussed in the first stage of the session, we talked about this different planes of consciousness. We'll know that in fact we are formed of what we call ourselves. We have different levels, like uh, in our own being, we have uh, physical, we have vital, and we have mental being. And that is the outer one I am saying. And even behind it, there is the inner one, inner mental, inner vital, inner physical. And finally, at the core of all these, the inmost being, which we call the psychic one. So until and unless we know from where the influences are coming and which are to be sifted out, which we'll have to discern first, and then consciously keep on rejecting what is not right in our being, what should not be, what we should not entertain in our being coming from outside. All these things we'll have to know first, then we'll have to keep on practicing. Of course, it will take years, maybe, doesn't matter, but that is the only way out for us to be happy permanently. That is why we keep on uh, falling degraded most of the time. Today I am dejected. Today I feel low. I feel blue. For a moment, we become happy, and then onwards for a long time. There are problems, difficulties, grief, sorrow, which invade us. So all these things are coming from outside only, from the universal nature. So first we'll have to know from where all these things are coming, then consciously reject all those influences, all those um, forces trying to invade us, trying to enter into us through there's a wall-like thing which is called circumconscient. It is called the circumconscient or the nervous envelope. So we keep letting those forces come into our being. Of course, at times, even knowing also, we make mistakes. But slowly and slowly, the psychic force becomes dominant in us in time to take hold of our whole being. That may take years together. As Mother said, as we already have discussed about it so many times, that for someone's psychic being to come to the front and take complete control of the mind, vital and physical, she says, if it is a one-pointed pursuit even, that will take at least 30 years. But doesn't matter. Finally, it is that which will take us to the right spot for culminating the divine in us, for manifesting the divine in us. So we will discuss about all these things in our future sessions, and we think that we should conclude today's session. If someone wants to ask something, please. Okay, then if you do not have anything, then we'll close the session. Thank you.